This is Corsica. They used to be part of the Republic of Genoa until 1755, that Corsica became an independent state, until the French took it in 1768. 1 year later, the star of the story was born, Napoleon. His dad really liked the French, but Napoleon didn't, so he did not have a great relationship with his dad, because he felt like it was a betrayal to the Corsican people. Instead, he really liked his mum. His family was of very minor nobility, so they sent him to France to go to school. He would get in fights a lot because he kept getting bullied for his Corsican accent and his family's lack of wealth. When people laughed at him, he usually attacked back, not with words, but with actions. He read a lot and wished that someday he would be an emperor. When he graduated at the age of 16, he was made second lieutenant, but he wanted something better. But we are in France in 1785, where positions were handed out because of nobility and not because of talent. But then he was lucky. Here is the French Revolution. The idea of the revolution was mostly to make everybody more equal. He helped the revolution by putting down the siege of Toulon and became brigade general. Then he stopped royalist upbringing in Paris and became major general. And for that he was given his own army. Now Napoleon didn't have much luck with the ladies, but he was very lucky when he met Josephine. She was a single aging mother in debt, so she married him. Hey Napoleon, we have accidentally pissed off the rest of Europe. How? Because the rest of Europe is a monarchy and we have just kind of messed it all up, and now the countries are worried about that people will revolt just like we did. This is the war of the First Coalition, where we have France and Spain against the Dutch Republic, Great Britain, the Holy Roman Empire, Portugal, Austria, Sardinia and Prussia. Yeah, France stood no chance. Surprisingly, France did a good job, and the territories they conquered turned into sister republics. France formed a plan where they would take over Vienna. The plan was that two great armies would be in the north and Napoleon would be in the south as a distraction. But Napoleon was great. He first gave his army a motivational speech and then brought him into Italy, where he was outnumbered by Sardinians and Austrians. But Napoleon was good and separated his two armies, attacking the Sardinians first and knocking them out of the war, and then Austria. The Battle of Lodi, Napoleon was aiming the cannons and getting covered in dirt, and the people respected him so much that when he gave an almost suicidal assault on the only bridge in town, did it even though the Austrians were there and they took it. When he came to Italy, the people of Italy cherished him, but not for long though, because he just changed the Austrian oppressors with French ones. But he actually paid his army the first money they had seen in years. The Pope had been supporting the Austrians, so he passed by and then he went back to action, attacking the Austrians and forcing them to sue for peace or he would take over Vienna. He just kicked Austria out of the war, and it also helped get some sister republics. What a pro. In 1798, Napoleon went to Egypt, where he studied Egypt. When the British came, he kind of escaped. It had not gone great in France and Egypt, but he was good at propaganda, making fake paintings to make him look cool, but not cool enough for his wife. Because when he came back to France, he realized she had been with another man. Around this time, Napoleon decided he wanted more power, so he organized a military coup against the unpopular government, and it was a successful one. And now there was 3 consuls that organized the country. Well, mostly Napoleon. Right in time for the war of the Second Coalition. But this time with Russia to move them back a bit. But Napoleon moved to Geneva, and the people found it impossible that he would cross against the Alps and attack Genoa. But that's what he did. After many battles, France won against Austria again. For some period, England was trying to blockade France, but the world got mad at them, so the UK bombed Copenhagen for no reason. And after that, they made peace with France. Now with peace, Napoleon could help his country. He first got a new bank for France, organized the legal system into a Napoleonic code, reformed infrastructure, and took away women's rights. Yeah, that's not great. He also reformed education, making it so it was based on individual ability, and he got the church back and gave religious freedom. The British declared war again. But Napoleon didn't care. Now he wanted even more power. So he made a vote to see if everybody was okay with him being an emperor. And he crowned himself Pro. And he really wanted to attack Britain, but he couldn't because, well, Britannia rules the waves, and Napoleon couldn't risk it losing all because of that. But England had money, and they invited Russia, Austria, Naples, and Sweden to attack France, forming the Third Coalition. This war was quick because Napoleon had made corps, separating his army, making them live off the land instead of heavy supply trains that moved very slowly. He very quickly took over Austrian army and then attacked Russia. Russia and Austria attacked thinking that Napoleon wasn't waiting for it, but from the fog more soldiers came, and when the Allies were trying to cross the frozen lake, he threw bombs at it, killing many people that the number isn't even known how many people died. Napoleon had won again. Now Napoleon of course was mad at Austria for it being the third time that it attacked. So they made them give up land, give money, and promise to not attack again. The Emperor of Austria was so sad that he dissolved the Holy Roman Empire that had lasted for 1006 years. Not long after that, the Fourth Coalition started. No Austria this time. But Russia decided to take out their best friend, the winter. The battles were horrible. Both sides decided to wait until after winter. After that, they went straight into fighting. Russia lost and Napoleon won again. Russia and Napoleon met up, and they were pretty good friends. They even kissed. They were so good friends that they allied, and Napoleon gave Russia the command to invade Finland. In 2006, Napoleon gave the continental system a shot of the UK continental trade. The economy of the UK did suffer, and it did what the UK does for no reason at all. They went to Copenhagen, which again isn't an ally of anyone, and they exploded stuff. Now at this point of course the Danish were annoyed, so they joined Napoleon. But Napoleon's allies secretly started trading with England, mostly Spain. So Napoleon set his brother as king in Spain. But the people of Spain revolted, known as the Peninsular War. Now that Napoleon was handling Spain, somebody's about to come back. A character from season 3 is about to come in season 5. The Fifth Coalition, known as... This time, they thought they had a chance. But no, Napoleon took 4 months. But they have one of the worst battles and Napoleon's first major defeat. This time, Austria lost even more land. Napoleon and Austria decided Napoleon would marry his younger daughter so he have an heir. And through that, he also got an alliance with Austria. But didn't Napoleon have a wife? Yes, but she was too old to give a child. Napoleon had a beautiful potato. Russia started with trade with England. So in 1812, Napoleon did the biggest army Europe has ever seen. 650,000 men, and started to invade Russia. But the Russians had a plan. They would retreat, and while they retreated, they would set fire to everything, making it so needed supply trains to survive, and that would make him go slower. People died of heat, and supplies started to run out. When he reached Moscow, the Russians started to attack back in the worst battle of the Napoleonic Wars, the Battle of Bordeaux. Eventually, the Russians escaped, but Russia had one last plan, to burn it all up. And then Napoleon waited, and waited, and waited. Eventually winter came, so Napoleon and his army started to flee. Many people died. Napoleon even had poison around his neck in case of capture. Napoleon left his army to go to France and left his men. Less than 100,000 men suffered. And now we have the War of the Sixth Coalition. Austria tried to make peace with allies, but Napoleon said no. So Austria joined the allies. Too quickly, the allies started to push back, until the Battle of the Nations, where the French were fighting with everyone at the same time. In Spain, the British has put Napoleon out and going into France. Sweden invaded Denmark, typical, and now Napoleon had two giant powers on each side. And in 1814, the Allies arrived in France and Paris, and finally after years Napoleon had lost. They restored the monarchy in France with Louis XVII, and they sent Napoleon to the island of Elba. The Allies even gave him the name Emperor of Elba. I think they found that funny. When he saw they were coming, he drank his poison, but it didn't work, so instead he got a tummy ache. He gave one last speech and gave a kiss to his flag. He was very bored on the island, and he felt very unsafe, so he escaped? Yep, Napoleon escaped very easily. People were not very happy in France because of the new king, because he's a king, so when Napoleon came, people cheered. Of course, the Allies were not happy, and they declared war. Not on France, but on Napoleon. Now, being at war with Europe isn't the greatest thing. Napoleon sent his men to attack, and eventually arrived at Waterloo, where Napoleon's last battle happened, and he quickly lost. This time they sent him to St. Helena, where he would live for the last years of his life. And this time, he wouldn't be able to escape. He had 2 boats going around the island 24/7, and many troops guarding him. Eventually, he died in 1821, and now he is buried in Los Invalidos, Paris, France. Napoleon is considered to be the best general in history, and the Napoleonic Code is still used to this day. And even though war isn't good, his idea of the revolution against the monarchy wasn't that bad. Until he became one himself.